Between them lies the Bashu cultural area, including the mysterious Sangsingdui site in Gwanghwaun. So what is the relationship among these three regions? Did the people of Sangsingdui also use stone materials transported from Tonghai in Yunnan? These questions remain for us to study further. In the following days, more pottery fragments, copper, ore, and smelting slag were uncovered, and a sense of disappointment began to settle over the excavation team. At this stage, the copper ore and small amount of slag found in the layer indicated that people of the time had already begun mining copper, smelting it, and producing bronze objects. This collection of remains may therefore belong to the Bronze Age. All the evidence pointed to the Yunnan cultural period was the attempt to uncover traces of the ancient Haidong culture destined to fail? Yet archaeology often turns on unexpected discoveries. Beginning on February 4, 2016, pottery with typical Yunnan cultural characteristics began to disappear from the layers. On February 6th, the silence was broken by the discovery of an ancient tomb. Inside the tomb, a relatively complete human skeleton was preserved, and beside the skull lay a uniquely shaped funerary vessel. This vessel, known as a bean, is 10.6 centimeters tall, 15.2 centimeters wide, and 18.4 centimeters in diameter, made of sandy red pottery. With its rounded body and wide opening, this type of pottery bean has never been found in Yunnan Bronze Age tombs. Did this pottery vessel come from an earlier layer, or does it reflect a transitional phase at this site? We will need to make further judgments later. On February 10, 2016, heavy fog covered Shinji Primary School as the annual Spring Festival tug-of-war competition took place. Despite the cold, the air was filled with children's laughter. Amid the noise from the playground, archaeological work continued. The clay pot unearthed during the school's foundation were clearly displayed strong cultural traits of the Haidong site, so why did the ongoing excavation remain confined to the Yunnan cultural period? With these doubts in mind, the excavation continued. On February 13, 2016, the No. 1 excavation square at the Shinji site had reached a depth of 7 meters. On the soil surface in the southwest corner, a small, unusually shaped jar appeared. Teacher Ju, take a look at this. It's still intact. It should be restaurable. It looks a bit unusual. The rim is upturned. And there's a nipple-shaped knob beneath the rim. Yes, the neck is rather long. There are also two hanging line decorations on the shoulders. This is a hanging pattern design. The rim resembles the Lord's mouth style. Is this a nipple-shaped knob? Yes, it's attached to the pottery. It will be clearer after washing. Let's clear the surrounding area first and see if anything else appears. There's more here. Let's keep checking what's around it. This is a good find. It was placed directly inside the house. Push the soil away carefully. As for this jar with a spout, it also seems to show traces of the same cultural influence. This pottery shows stylistic elements reminiscent of the Shang and Zhou periods. Within it, one can see traces similar to the Zhou-type vessels of that era. From these pottery pieces, we can observe that their features are highly distinctive. They appear to be distributed only within the central Yunnan region. Yet despite their strong local characteristics, the interior of some vessels shows slight influences from the Central Plains, particularly from the Shang cultural sphere. What kind of historical connections do these artifacts represent? As excavation continued, another group of pottery pieces emerged. displaying shapes similar to those associated with the Yinxiang culture of the Central Plains. To the archaeologists' surprise, evidence of an unknown civilization never before recorded in Yunnan's archaeological history quietly surfaced. After extensive research, the team confirmed that this previously unknown culture, seemingly linked to the Yinxiang period, had not appeared in any archaeological findings in Yunnan for the past 30 years. On February 19, 2016, the remains of a circular house, buried beneath layers of shells and soil, suddenly came into view. Since this level of civilization had never been explored before, the discovery of round dwellings absent from the Heidong site was unprecedented. Is this charcoal the remains of the floor or the roof after a fire? Is this the result of burning or natural carbonization? If it is carbonized, it may better support the idea that it was part of the flooring. The likelihood of an entire house carbonizing naturally is relatively low, would typically decay slowly into ash underground. Only high temperatures can preserve it as carbon. Unless we can prove it was intentionally buried, carbonized wood shouldn't appear so uniformly black. The circular structure belonging to this unknown culture also drew the attention of Wang Wei, then director of the Institute of Archaeology at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, who visited the site. Look here, the height difference is only a few centimeters. You should examine this area. The key question is whether there is another layer of ash beneath this. Is this the bottom layer or the top? It's also possible that this was a floor layer with additional material stacked above it. So we must consider the most complex possibilities first, then eliminate them step by step. The circular structure has a diameter of about 4 meters and covers roughly 10 square meters, oriented west to east. After multiple expert evaluations, it was determined that the round house likely collapsed after a fire. The collapse pattern suggests that the roof fell inward like the ribs of an umbrella. The entire roof collapsed after burning, covering the floor of the dwelling. Why is there a trench inside this house? Clear it slowly. Brush the top layer first. Oh, could this be a human bone? It appears to be human remains. Let's first determine the extent of this area. Yes, this appears to be the leg bone of an adult. I think this is indeed a leg bone. It looks like it. This should be a tomb, which means the burial layer lies beneath this level. The bones must have already been here when the house was constructed. Use a brush to clean it carefully. Oh, is that the skull? Yes, this is the skull. Then there should be no issue confirming this as a tomb. To fully clean the remains of the circular house, the archaeological team temporarily halted excavation of the tomb. At 3:40 p.m. on February 25, 2016, beneath the shell layer not far from the human bones, the team uncovered another ancient artifact. The head is tilted. Let's check whether it's broken. This is a stone mold. Half of it, the other half hasn't been found yet. When the two halves are joined, there's a pouring channel here. Molten copper would be poured into cast arrowheads. This type is called a willow leaf-shaped copper arrowhead. The mold allows for casting up to 10 arrowheads at once. Since this ancient community of an unknown civilization had already begun casting arrows and hunting, what else might have been part of their diet besides game and snails? We're conducting flotation analysis. We collect large soil samples from each layer. The soil is stirred in water, and carbonized plant seeds float to the surface, allowing us to separate them. After drying, we examine them under a microscope to determine whether they are rice, wheat, or millet, helping us reconstruct the crops of that period. At the same time, Carbon-14 dating can be performed to determine the age of the layer. So far, we've identified rice. It likely belonged to the southern rice-growing tradition. This means their diet included rice, snails, and fish, quite a diverse menu. We reconstruct ancient diets through plant and animal archaeology. In addition to large quantities of snails, we also found many crabs, shrimp, and carp. On land, we uncovered bones of cattle, pigs, and elephants. Preliminary analysis indicates that the pig bones belonged to domesticated animals. Archaeologists believe that the unusual pottery, the stone arrow casting mold, the round houses, and the tombs beside them demonstrate that this ancient community predating traditional Yunnan culture already knew how to gather, fish, hunt, and secure the food they needed. The emergence of this ancient group also shows that human civilization had already taken root along the shores of Kilu Lake thousands of years ago. Where did this mysterious tribe eventually go? Which later peoples might they have been ancestors of? How did they develop before the rise of traditional Yunnan culture? Archaeologists will continue searching for answers. In future excavations, will the team uncover evidence linking this site to the Heidong site? On March 10, 2016, a sudden strong wind swept across the shores of Kilu Lake, causing temperatures to drop sharply. The archaeological team put on heavier clothing and began excavating the tomb beneath the circular house. But I noticed the bones seemed to have never been moved. We wondered whether the person might have been buried in a reclined position, with the legs bent backward and the knees originally facing upward. It's possible the knees could have been raised, but after burial, the remains might have been compressed. The knees may have originally pointed upward, but after the muscles decayed, they collapsed downward. For example, if the legs were originally positioned upward, pressure could have caused them to shift, one falling to one side, the other to the opposite side. If the limbs were bent, wouldn't they form piles on either side of the body? The posture of the human remains made the archaeological team feel something unusual. The skull was tilted to one side, and the leg bones were bent. Similar burials have been found in archaeological sites in Guangdong and Guangxi. In Yunnan, however, such burials are rare, appearing only once before during the 1989 excavation of the Heidong site. The funerary pottery found in the tomb immediately caught the team's attention. Could this pottery serve as physical evidence linking the two sites? At this stage, the bent limb burial style and the pottery found within the tomb align closely with the cultural characteristics of the Heidong type. Therefore, we preliminarily infer that the remains at the bottom of this site belong to the Heidong and Heidong Yangshan cultural types. After several months of demanding excavation, the team finally uncovered strong evidence connecting the Tonghai Shinji site with the Heidong cultural tradition. Following the 1989 excavation of the Heidong site, carbon-14 dating of two human skeletons placed the site at approximately 4,100 to 3,900 years old. During this period, the Central Plains region had already developed the early form of a centralized state, the Xia dynasty, while thousands of kilometers away, the shores of Kilu Lake were